Diving straight in.
Back in the lab.
Back in it.
This was the best response to losing 2 games, to go out and win 2.
It's funny that in the last episode we were talking about Barraza and, this potentially being his tryout.
Yeah.
Like his run in the team. And like the fact that he's either going to succeed or we're going to see that he's not the guy and get rid of him. And he's slowly, I think we might have even said it, like if he gets some confidence and starts playing, like he could be a guy.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's happened.
Yeah. I mean, with Barraza, it's like he's never going to take Sean's position. You know what I mean? With Sean being captain, we've backed ourselves into that corner. I'm not saying that Barraza deserves to take Sean's position either, but it does suck, if he ends up getting hot for like the next 3 weeks and then Sean comes back and like obviously Sean's taking the role no matter if Barraza has 5 or 4 more clean sheets between now and then. Every game, it doesn't matter. So yeah, that's my thoughts about Barraza. Is like it doesn't, and I feel bad because it really doesn't matter how well he plays. Like he's not getting the starting role.
I wish it wasn't that way.
I know.
He's so much more fun to watch.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's captain.
He comes out of the goal. He's that guy that can ping passes, and like he adds another threat to our team that Sean just doesn't. I mean, unless Sean has that similar like distribution, but with his arms.
Yeah, exactly. Barraza's better.
More like knock it upfield. Whereas, but I also think Barraza, he would thrive more in the systems where we start to play out of the back. Whereas Sean, I don't think really has that in him.
Yeah, but if there's anything that we could like take away positively from the Barraza thing is like the better he performs, the better we might be able to deal him and get some cash to do something with.
Or if Sean were to, not saying I wish it on him or anything. If he were to get injured, we're not totally screwed. Yeah. Like we do have a guy potentially. Yeah. Whereas, 2 games, 2 good games, 2 bad games. Not 2 bad games.
If we got to be fair. If we're going to call these games 2 good games.
So it's been two 50-50.
Yeah. I would say like 4 average games. Even you could go
4 average games, yeah.
Right? Like 4
There's
not
no
good, not bad.
Outside of that free kick.
Yeah, which
like you can knock his positioning and his handling of the ball, but not many keepers are really stopping.
Aside from that, like you said with the distribution in the Montreal game, the only thing to write home about was Barraza's assist to Izzy, which was incredible. It proved that distribution is something that, he can handle. But other than that,
I mean, that game, just to sum it up kind of in a couple of words, is it showed fight. It showed character in the team. Like we were able to grind a win out. Yeah. Should we have been grinding a win out against them? Probably not.
Right.
But we were coming off a loss from them anyways.
Yeah. That's what shows the fight, is we just took it out of them like 10 days prior. Yeah. And we wanted that back. And we got it. And we took it back.
And then Ronnie must have been lighting dudes up in training. Yeah. Like he must have been lighting dudes up and saying, why are we not scoring? Why are we not doing the little things right? Because then we go and thump some boys 5-0.
Do you think, so the thing with Orlando, we've talked about in the past with the number of people, whether it was the Roar or Michael Allen, like this rivalry. Like, did you get that feeling with this game at all? Like, I know in the past we've definitely hyped it up because there's been some insane moments, but like, I know they're a tough team, but I didn't feel like that fire.
Well, the thing,
like
this time. This is like when we went and steamrolled the Red Bulls. That still felt like a rivalry game, and it felt like we got one over on them.
Yeah, this one I didn't get.
It didn't feel like that because they did roll over. Red Bulls, even though they got thumped, didn't roll over. Yeah. In that game,
it's a good
and
point.
Like these guys really they rolled over.
Yeah, they kind of.
But there were moments where I was like, okay, they're an injured animal that we're just destroying. Yeah, like we're kicking while it's down. But we were still playing really well.
Yeah, you have to consider through the first we didn't score until like the late 30th minutes, whatever one it was, like 34th or something like that. And through the first 40, something like that. Like there were a couple of goals where Barraza like had to make himself big, and it was him and the striker, and it was like 1-on-1, and he made they were dangerous for that. Those first 40 minutes, it was 0-0. Like it's crazy that all of that production and goals came in, essentially the second half of the entire game. And then, like you said, they did just kind of like give up, I guess. Like,
yeah, there was a point where you saw that they were just kind of like, all right, let's just get out of here. Like, let's chalk this up. We know we're not. Their attack really wasn't doing much anymore. But there was still like, we weren't doing the thing where we were piling on by just like forgetting our tactics, forgetting our setup and everything. Like we were piling it on while following the plan, and I don't think Ronnie would have accepted anybody doing anything else. Yeah. Like Malt coming up and playing triangles and getting in good positions for that goal, like that happening that late in the game, that scoreline to me shows what Ronnie's doing in the locker room.
And it was a lot of great individual efforts. I mean, like, in terms of finishing, this is something that we don't typically see from these guys. And then you see Izzy rip one left-footed, gets goal of the week. You see Malt hit that. You see Medina opened it up with one of the best goals out of all 5 that we scored. I mean, Izzy's is probably the best, but that Medina goal is filthy. The way he tucked that top left near post with a defender on him, that was ridiculous.
That seemed exactly like the goal that I think Revolution scored on us. The one where it was like left foot perfectly into the roof of it seemed almost identical. And dude, there's just no stopping that.
No, we talked about that. It was when Sean, I think it was maybe Boo that scored that on him, Gustavo Boo or whatever. And we were like, there's no keeper.
Yeah, there's no way. Even though Chanel probably doesn't do Sean justice there, but whatever. Chanel doesn't really do it. And there has to be a lot said about the performance of Malt in that game.
He got man of the match.
That was like, that made me breathe deep, like out. I just felt so relieved. I was like, okay, finally he's showing exactly what he can do, because for so long you're like, it's almost there, but you can tell he's not fully comfortable yet.
Well, we've talked very highly of him without much like evidence to back that up.
All because of YouTube highlights. YouTube highlights set us up for this game that we just watched.
Highlights and just our like vibes for Malte. We were like, he seems like the guy for left back. But then it's tough too, because like Thor is great.
And I love his personality.
But it's weird because this was a rotation lineup. Essentially, there were a lot of rotated pieces in.
We didn't have Acevedo playing.
But it's like with our, somewhat of a rotation, we're like trouncing one of the best teams in the league 5-0.
Yeah, and we kind of set up similar to how I play FIFA. Really is how we set the team up. And
let's talk a little bit about that.
It's just weird that we go and win 5-0 with
your
similar tactics to what I would run in this team. And there was a lot of positives in that game. The negatives, you still aren't seeing Tinnerholm be Tinnerholm. Like that still is we're still waiting for that.
Well, there's always, throughout a season there's very few players that are going to be like superstar, from game 1 to game 36. And I think the important part is that the pieces around them, we can expect like 80% of the time we're going to get Tinnerholm as like a top 2 player on our team. But what you really need is like the other guys that aren't always showing up to like lift themselves when somebody like Tinnerholm is sort of in a dry spell. It's sort of like with Tati being in a dry spell. One thing that we've heard so much, I swear I've heard Ian say it like 20 times over the last 4 weeks, is like, Tati is not the guy, but he's a guy that scores 12 to 15 goals a season. It's like, well, if there's 12 to 15 and what was that, his third or fourth, there's a lot to come, even though he's been in this dry spell, and that's something that we expect from him. But you just have to have the pieces around him to allow him to work through his issues.
Yeah, well, I did see a few people saying like that Tati shouldn't get too much confidence off of that goal because it was a tap in.
That's fair.
I don't think it's fair though. I don't think that that's fair, because at the end of the day, what that shows Tati is doing the little things still matter regardless if you are in a drought.
Okay.
So chasing the ball still, being in those positions, you can't, like, when you are so goal hungry, and you're in that drought, I feel like you can get into a mentality where you're like, okay, I don't need to do the little things. I just need to focus on a goal. Just give me a goal. And you're forgetting to do the little things that lead to goals.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense to me.
And so shutting down, I just wanted to shut down that narrative of like, well, it was a tap in, it didn't matter. It's not going to do much for him. Like, no, that's that's going to lift his confidence and show him that the little things do matter still.
Yeah. That just reminds me of like the Bruno penalty narrative. So I understand you're always...
Or your narrative with Medina last week when we were watching the game, when it was like, oh, there was an easy, like he just had to be there kind of goal.
I mean, he had to put it away at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, Medina has had a handful of tap-ins this season out of his, what is he at, like 5 goals now?
I'm getting close to having
But it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, like if Medina is scoring tap-ins, then that's what I want.
If we're winning games, I don't care. I don't care if it's 60 own goals that get us a championship. That's what I want.
Yeah, if we're like if we're winning, essentially.
But even Maxi getting some stats to bring him some confidence, even though his goal, pretty lucky. He's pretty lucky that fell back to him.
Yeah. It's just like Tati's essentially.
But it is what it is. Those are more things that's less bad on us and more bad on Orlando for giving up. Because we don't score those goals if Orlando doesn't give up.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think about this being considered like a statement game for us? Because as I said before we hopped on the mics officially, we were like, scrolling through our Twitter, just keeping up to date on local news or up to date news essentially about the team. And like one of the things I saw is NYCFC the top seed for the MLS Cup at this point?
No, I would say nothing has changed from the last week that you heard from us in our minds. I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like I can.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed for us. It's 2 games we should have won. Maybe should have won Montreal by more. But the real statement game, if we want to go there, is next week. Columbus again. That's our statement game. If we go there and we take a result from them, then we can start talking about, okay, we're moving in the right direction. I'm not too bothered by the 2 losses, and I'm not too bothered by the 2 wins. We're in the same spot we were. And I think we need to beat Columbus to prove that we can compete with the better teams, and just keep this thing rolling.
Yeah. I think in terms of Columbus, it's going to be super important to beat them, because I think if you take like a third L to a team, it gets to a point, after 2, you're like, okay, if we get 1 back, we can prove to ourselves that we can beat them. But if you take a third L, I feel like you maybe start drinking the tea of like, oh, we can't beat them. Like that starts to kind of go into your brain. And Columbus is a team that anybody can assume, we have a total chance of playing them in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, another level to that matchup is that obviously they have a game on us, but beating Columbus moves us up above them as well.
Yeah.
Beating Columbus also puts us in a great position to be around fourth to 3rd.
Yeah.
Maybe even 2nd, depending on how those matchups go, because you have teams like Philly and Nashville, who Philly has 2 games on us, Nashville has 1, and the max amount of points above us is 3 points. So these games are important. We need to beat these teams and advance,
I think,
so that we can feel more safe in the playoff picture.
Yeah, I think we summed it up at the end of the last episode. What we really left with after witnessing the 2 losses was we're still going to be in the playoffs. I think NYCFC fans in general, they're not worried about getting to the show. They're worried about performing when you're in the show, because that's been our issue forever. Exactly. Since 2015, that's been our issue. We've never had much of a big problem making it there. We just have to do something when we get there.
And I think at least now, as opposed to teams before, we have depth beyond our first team.
Yeah. Because more than we ever have.
Think about when Villa was here.
Yep.
We had no depth. It was the first team or nothing.
Yeah, it was like the tactics were legit get the ball to him.
Yeah. We need to put 10 other people on the field to get Villa the ball.
Yeah.
And now we have depth beyond our first team, beyond our striker. And so once we get those pieces in, plus I don't know how many times we have to say it, we have pieces coming back.
Yeah.
You know, not that anybody on Twitter right now is doomsday. They're quite literally the opposite, unless we're talking about stadium in the front office.
Yeah.
It's
Which
not
rightfully so.
Yeah, it's not doomsday. So,
and I'll just add this as like the last thing is, aside from just pieces coming back, like we may also have pieces coming in. Like there's still this summer transfer window.
Yeah.
We still have 2 open DP slots.
Exactly.
Like, and there's money to be spent. That could get into a conversation about the FO, and if they're like, oh, well, look at how much money we've already spent, we don't need more. Who knows what they're thinking? But I feel like it has to be like terrible roster business to have 2 free DP slots in the MLS.
I don't think we'll use it.
I don't think so. Yeah.
But I don't think we're gonna use it. And I think results like this, when we don't have pieces, we don't have all of our pieces, show that we don't have to do the business. Mm-hmm. To them.
Yeah,
to
I
us,
agree.
I'm like, okay, we can get DPs that aren't playing international football and have them be guys.
DPs are like MLS cheat codes to get amazing players for, fractions of what it would cost typically.
But then you look at Inter Miami and you're like, okay, DPs
just
didn't
fudge
matter.
the numbers and bring everybody in.
But it doesn't matter because you have 9 points after 13 games. How do you have almost
slammed
as many points as you have games played after 13? That's pretty embarrassing. But I think we're gonna wrap it up. Something to look forward to this week. I'm not sure exactly when this is coming out, but NYCFC partnered with Rival Games. Mm-hmm. They're running a FIFA tournament, and so just got to show these kids what's up. Yeah,
I had to sign him up.
He had to sign me up.
I had to force him to sign up for this tournament, but now I have to admit he's actually very bought into it.
It was never.
I'd love to see it.
It was never an idea of being bought in or not. It was more previous plans made that were kind of had to be worked around, and so I'm gonna be playing in it, live streaming it on my Twitch, which will probably be linked in the bottom of this video.
Yeah, and we'll maybe upload stuff right to this channel, like if y'all mess with FIFA. Exactly.
And so, if I win, maybe you'll even see NYCFC's Twitter shout that out.
Yeah, and I was thinking too, like if anybody that does watch likes FIFA, drop your gamer tag.
Yeah, we'll play.
Just drop it.
And then hopefully getting a jersey to sit right up in,
big old
right
sign
in there. And so, if you are a fan of us, fan of me, maybe, come root us on. Other than that, we'll see you guys next week.
Yep.
After Columbus.
After the FIFA tournament. Yep. After all that. So
actually, we're gonna watch NYCFC Friday, Saturday. You can watch me go win a tourney.
Yeah.
For the boys.
And then you'll hear from us on Sunday,
or
Monday.
You'll see a very, very sad Justin next week. Post 90 on all platforms.
See ya.